The Success in South Florida podcast is brought to you by the team at Rawson Law Firm. If you need DUI or criminal defense representation, call the Rawson Law Firm at 754-206-6200 or check the description of today's episode for more contact information. The Rawson Law Firm, helping good people when bad things happen so they can achieve their best futures.
Welcome to Success in South Florida, featuring interviews with entrepreneurs, leaders, and other movers and shakers across South Florida to find out how they're doing their part to enhance the local community. Your host is Adam Rawson, the founder and CEO of the Rawson Law Firm. Adam's an award-winning attorney, former prosecutor, and a lifelong South Florida resident. He became an attorney because he believes in helping those in need and in crafting lifelong relationships in the community. This podcast is an extension of that mission. Let's get to today's interview. Here's Adam Rawson.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Success in South Florida podcast. I'm your host, Adam Rawson, and on today's episode, we have Brett Goetz. I'm super excited, Brett, to have you here. And I'm going to let Brett, of course, talk about himself, but he is moved to South Florida at about 15 years of age. So he considers himself a native between here and Philly. And he's a big time player in South Florida with South Florida Express, the nation's premier 7-on-7 travel flag football team. And he is also a very successful financial advisor. So Brett, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, I know. Of course, we've only recently, got to know each other, maybe the last few months. But of course, once we met, and we're a big supporter of everything that you guys do, I had to have you on. So give our folks just a little bit of a background about who you are, how you came down to South Florida, and we can take it from there.
Yeah. So, you mentioned what I do and who I am and and my hobbies. But, I started this football thing about probably close to 20 years ago with, I grew up I moved to Miami Beach when I was 14 or 15 and, always had family there, so I was always around. But I was involved with a group called the North Shore North Isle Optimist Club, which a client of mine got me involved with, just giving back to the community and doing charitable stuff with kids in the community. And one of the things that they did for many, many years for our club was doing athletic programs on Miami Beach. And that kind of went away with different other programs coming in, PAL, and other groups that got involved. And a bunch of our guys in our group kind of were getting older and didn't have the energy to go back and start doing sports again. And I really wanted to bring back, I never played football, but I was a big football fan, a huge sports fan, and really wanted to bring back football, the youth football program to Miami Beach, because, football is very big in South Florida, as we all know, or if you don't know, it is.
Oh, yeah.
And I figured, it'd be a fun thing to do. I was doing charitable stuff like doing a dental program on the beach for kids who couldn't afford dental care, and giving out awards for perfect attendance to encourage kids going to school. And I thought, you know what, let me bring in this football program and bring it back to Miami Beach, where we can, kind of keep kids out of trouble and keep them occupied through sports, which I was always involved with sports. And I figured it was a great way of doing it. So I started this tackle football league, and it lasted a few years, and it kind of eventually evolved into what we do today is the 7-on-7 football program.
And we'll definitely get into that. But Brett, what inspired your love of giving back to the South Florida community? Because it seems as though this has been a big part of your life for many years.
It's probably just the way I was raised. My parents always just taught me to give back and to, help out, people that maybe not in our position. And so I always made sure that I gave back one way or the other. One year I took my mom, and I think my daughter was really young. We went around and bought, I think we stopped at, I ordered a whole bunch of Thanksgiving meals and gave it out to a bunch of kids and families in the community that couldn't afford Thanksgiving meals. So I don't know. I just kind of the way I was raised. And my client got me involved with the Optimist Club, and I said, okay, let's do it, not knowing what I was getting into. And it really turned out to be a great program where, you kind of I always say if I can help one kid, then I did my job. And if we can help more than one kid, then, that's spectacular. And I makes you feel good at night that you're helping and giving back. And the football program, although it's football and I love it, and these kids are extremely talented, there's some things in the kids' lives that they don't have that, I'm not an X and O football guy, but I like, giving back in other ways through mentorship and teaching them life skills and things like that. And it makes me feel good. And, doing the 7-on-7, I've been doing for 16 years. And to this day, I'm still close with, a lot of the kids that started in year one. So, and they come back and ask me questions or advice on stuff. And, this is why I keep doing it.
Right. Oh, I agree 100%, and myself, I had the same, viewpoint on life. Everybody at the Rossin Law Firm does. And, it's sure you've been around 16 years, you have multiple players in the NFL, but I'm sure some of the relationships you have that are the most special could even be with the, so-called kids who didn't make it, but yet are doing very well, and wouldn't be doing very well, but for the mentorship, advice, counsel, relationships, experiences, everything that you and your team have helped provide for them. As now, 16, 15, 10 years later, they're, adults, maybe with children of their own. So you really are, I'm sure in your line of work, you talk a lot about creating generational wealth, but we're also creating kind of just generational, community wealth, right? Rather than financial wealth, because a lot of the issues that we see can run generations deep. So if you change that, then, it could be 50, 100, 200 years of generational positive community wealth.
Yeah. I never really brought up my business to these kids, and I never really, never pursued them as clients. It wasn't anything about that. I had a few clients just because the kids would come to me and say, "Hey, what do you do, coach?" And I would tell them, and they say, "Hey, if I ever make it," I mean, there was 2 brothers in the league right now, and the father was involved coaching, and we're on the bus. He never knew what I did. I knew him for 8, 9 years, never knew what I did. And one day we're on the bus traveling somewhere in the state, and he said, "Brett, what do you do?" And I told him. He said, "Oh, I never knew you did that." And he said, "You know what, Brett, if my kids ever made it to the NFL or made it successfully where they had money, I would absolutely come to you." And I said, "Well, that's great. I hope that happens for your kids." And it did. Both kids went to the NFL, and the dad amazing. Said, "This is who you're going to use because we really trust you, and we see what kind of person you are." But I never really pursued it. I really never brought my business into it. It was more just life skill stuff. Even the fact I tell my daughter this all the time. I've been doing this for 16 years. There's been two kids in 16 years that said to me, "What do you do, coach?" Now, that's to me, a question that you ask a lot of people. It's part of networking. And these kids, and plus they're young and they're kids, and maybe they weren't raised that way. But I try to explain these are things that you need to ask people to connect. The pieces. And I always tell them, like, the one thing I tell kids every single year is when you talk to these college coaches, they're trying to convince you to go to their school and trying to tell you what kind of offense or defense they run. But most importantly, ask the coach, what can you do for me off the field? When I'm at your school, who can you connect me with? I want to be XYZ. I want to be a teacher, or I want to be in finance, or I want to be a lawyer. While you're at that school, who can they connect you with to make those connections? So when football ends, you'll have the skills to be able to get a job in that industry or to learn or know where to go. And when I said to you, 2 kids in 16 years have asked me what I did, it's kind of strange because I think it's important that these kids ask the right questions. And I tell them, when you go to school, whether you're in a private school or down here where there's you're surrounded by a lot of wealthy kids, or when you're in college, you're the big man on campus. And, sometimes people won't come up to you. They're a little intimidated, but learn to go talk to everybody on these campuses and get to know everybody, not just your teammates, because you'd be surprised where it gets you in the end. And that's where I really feel like I could try to help these kids, because when only 2 kids have said to me, "What do you do?" And that conversation opens up a lot, for them. And the 2 kids have asked me, these are the 2, and those 2 kids have actually made it pretty well in life because they knew the right questions to ask. And it's not just what you do, but, learning to network and learning to ask the right question. So that's where I feel that I can add a lot of value to what I'm doing with this work that I do with football.
It reminds me of the phrase, your net worth is your network, right? Or your network is your net worth. So, and those are very important skills that all types of people, young, especially young people, but 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds need. It's a skill that has to be developed and learned and honed and mastered. And that is one of the differences between successful people and non-successful people. Whether you're an introvert or extrovert, you have to at least know how to carry a conversation, how to ask the right questions, and build relationships. Because at the end of the day, people do business with people that they know, like, and trust in every single industry.
And by the way, in these days, and I know I would probably, you imagine you're going to bring it up, is NIL, name, image, and likeness. And, these kids need to learn. It's not just what you could do on the field, but it's who you are off the field. And, they need to learn how to communicate so they can get these deals in college. Some of these, many states, there's several states that passed it where they can get paid in high school now. Florida, I think, is coming pretty soon. But you need to learn how to network so these deals are going to come to you.
All right, it's a whole new age. It's a whole new age, and the difference between the people who have massive success are the people who embrace it, who get ahead of it, learn it, and even if it's something that you're individually, it's a little outside of your comfort zone, you have to push yourself. You have to step out of your comfort zone, because I've learned that's where the growth really happens, is when you really step outside. And we're definitely going to talk about NIL a little bit later. That's on my list. And the great thing for you and South Florida Express is that you guys have a lot of the world's most talented players who are going to be getting really involved with this. And I already know some of the big things that you have set up for them, and I definitely want to go into that and really talk about that. So that's great stuff. Great stuff so far, Brett. And so I want to talk about what was the first 1, 2, 3 years like, as you just kind of had this crazy idea to start this flag football 7-on-7 team. And let's talk about some of the struggles you had and how you overcame them.
When somebody asked me to do this, I happened to be very close with a kid that played in my tackle football league. And the kid turned out to be like the top linebacker of the country coming out in his class in 2008. And through that, I got to know a lot of different people. A lot of different college coaches would call me about him, reporters and stuff like that. So I really built a really great network, but there was some struggles. I mean, there was a lot of high school coaches that said, my kid's not playing on this team. You're going to try to steal our players to a different high school, or, things like, even financially. I mean, to this day, we're still trying to continue to raise money. I mean, it's really expensive to run this program. We have great sponsors, including the Rawson Law Firm, which we really appreciate you guys, Adam.
Of course, it's our pleasure.
Helped us tremendously. And, really, it's really two things, just having the right people, the right mentors, the right coaches around the kids. It was always, you got to find the right people. I think other people have different motives. So I think, struggle wise, we had to, at the beginning, we had to let some guys go, find the right group of people that are going to be, to bring the values that I want in our program. And then, of course, the financial part. I mean, it's really, really expensive. And we're dealing mostly with kids that really don't have family money. So we can't ask them for money to go travel. We're going to LA in a couple of weeks for the national championship, and we're still trying to raise money for that. I can't, I hate to kill these kids with that. Hey, you got to give us $500 for this trip, because they can't do it. It's a struggle. And if they give it to us, it's going to take away from something else that, for a lot of these kids, that $500 could go to meals or other stuff, So
absolutely.
People like you guys, and, we really have to rely on generous sponsors throughout the community that believe in what we do. And I always tell people, it's not just football, it's mentorship. It's trying to help these kids, no matter how talented they are on the field, they could use help off the field in a lot of different ways. So the struggles, again, getting back to the struggles, it's always been financial or, just having the right people around for the right reasons. But we get through that, and we continue to operate.
Right. Well, and, when you started, did you just have one team to start, right? And so
Yeah.
you've scaled this. So how many teams does South Florida Express have right now?
So the first year, it was one team of 22 players and one tournament, which was in Tampa. So we practiced for 4 weekends in a row. And then on the 5th weekend, we rented vans and we drove up to Tampa.
Humble beginnings.
So it was the cost was minimal at the time. And so it was easy, So now we have a varsity team. We have a 15U team. We have a 14U team. We have some youth teams. There's a 9U, a 13U. So there's a lot of different groups, and now there's the 7-on-7 space, and especially for teams like us that are the big national teams, there's a lot of travel involved, and this year travel is crazy. The cost of everything is ridiculous. So it's been a struggle this year, but we get through it, and again, with the help of many of our sponsors and help from friends and our coaches and whoever else, we get through it.
Right. And so now, this is not just a team that it was 16 years ago, but this is an organization, right? A program, 5-6 teams. How many coaches are on your staff?
So there's, I'll say adults. Okay. So there's, and adults, what I mean by adults is there's coaches. Like on the varsity, there's 5 total coaches. And then there's me that runs it. I have a general manager that does a lot for our program. We have 2 content people. We have a logistics person. There's a lot. Right. Plus, we all have real jobs. So I spread out as much as I can to as many people that are willing to volunteer to help. But it's a lot of work and it's a lot of people. And so it becomes costly.
But congratulations to you are in order, because over a relatively quick time, you built yourself into not just a team of superstars that goes everywhere, but a grassroots, organization. And we were very lucky to have Brandon Innes on the pod, and he talked about being involved in the program or the family since 7th grade.
Yeah.
Right. And so to be able to have these homegrown kids on the team, I think is just absolutely amazing. And that's the difference between a traveling all-star team versus an organization whose top team just happens to be, one of the absolute best, right, in the country. And that's the difference, right, is when you have that long term. 7th grade to 12th grade is a long time, but it's, especially me knowing as a former high school basketball coach, how long a 3-month high school basketball season actually is when you're around people 6 days a week. Yeah. But for children, teenagers, adults, that 7th to 12th grade, that is pivotal amount of time in somebody's life.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And Brandon, he loves to talk about that, which we did for him, but it was just about who we are and who I am. And, Brandon now is in college. He just left 2 weeks ago to go to college, and he still calls me every day.
Ohio State University.
He's at the Ohio State University. And I still get a call from him every single day about either how I am or he needs help with something, how to fill out a paper, how to do this. And I love it. And I love him. And there's so many players that I've had that I love this. I have one daughter, and, I had one, and we were one and done, and she's a great kid. But, and everyone said, oh, you need boys. Well, these are my boys, and there's a lot of them that I still talk to and still call me for advice. And, it's great. I'm actually going in a couple of weeks before we go to our national championship in LA. I'm going to LA Memorial Day weekend for this quarterback challenge with all the top quarterbacks in the country. High school and college will be there. I went last year. I was invited. We're sponsored by Adidas also. It gives us apparel. And I go out there, and a bunch of our former players will be there. Brandon actually gets invited to catch balls for the quarterback. So, and there's the quarterback at USC was one of our players. So we're all grabbing dinner together just to hang out and talk. And I love to hear their beginning college stories that they're sharing and their frustrations with college. And, it's funny, they go from Brandon actually played in a really great high school football program with with great coaching. So the adjustment wasn't as difficult, but, hearing it for some other kids, like, oh my God, these workouts are crazy. And,
Right.
It's
And
funny to hear,
we can give that shout out to American Heritage and Plantation. That's also where I coached high school basketball
I think
there.
you were part of that formula at one point, Adam, from what you told me, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I coached there from 2010 to 2014 for the basketball program. We won the first and still only state championship in American Heritage's history. And we weren't lucky enough to have anybody play in the NBA, but we had some amazing, first of all, people. And we had amazing, talented basketball players who played all levels of college basketball, and some that are coaching now high major Division I programs, and some who are just very successful in life. And, I loved my time at American Heritage. It's an absolutely fantastic school between everything that they do. They have one of that, probably the best law program in high school, law program and high school mock trial program in South Florida, maybe the state of Florida. So it's just a very well-rounded school, and I absolutely love it. So we can give them a shout out.
And Coach Mike Smith, who's the coach there now, he's fantastic. I mean, with the training, the preparation for these kids, I think these kids will have a much easier adjustment to the next level, being around what they were given the tools at American Heritage.
Right. Absolutely. So, Brett, I think this is a perfect time to take a little break, hear a word from our sponsor, which is also the Rawson Law Firm. And when we come back, we can talk about just what you have on tap for South Florida Express. We can talk about the national championships and just all the other great things that you guys have going on. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
When something bad happens, who do you turn to? In South Florida, the answer is the Rawson Law Firm. Criminal and DUI defense for when bad things happen to good people. The Rawson Law Firm is a team of 8 criminal defense attorneys, including 2 board-certified criminal trial experts. They also have federal and white-collar divisions in the practice. To learn more about the team and how they can help you, connect on Facebook and Instagram at Rawson Law Firm. You'll also find helpful and entertaining videos on Rawson Law Firm YouTube channel. Just check this episode's description for all the ways you can connect.
All right, and we're back from our commercial break here. Adam Rawson and Brett Goetz on the Success in South Florida podcast. So, Brett, we've been talking a lot about South Florida Express. Again, your amazing 7-on-7 flag football team that is nationally known and based out of South Florida. And we were talking a little bit about the national championships coming up. So when is that, where? And I know you guys are 2-time back-to-back defending national champions. So talk to our viewers just about what's going on and what you're excited for.
Yeah, so the tournament, the finale for our season is June 14th through June 18th in Los Angeles. It's the OT7 Overtime Media Company. They have their national championship in June. Like I said, June 14th through the 18th. It's 12 of the best teams in the country, which we are one of them. We think we're the best, and we're going to find out. We did win last year. We won the national championship in Las Vegas. We certainly hope to repeat. I think we have the coaching. I think we have the players. And with a little discipline and stuff, I think we're going to be good. It's, we look forward to it. And we actually just met the other day. Some of our coaches, we had a quick meeting on Saturday just to kind of discuss strategy, discuss the players we have, and to make sure we're all on the same page so, we can win this.
Right. And so this is the place to be, right? I mean, I know there's going to be tons of people out there from social media. Now, are the college football coaches allowed to attend?
No, but
not?
Unless they have a child that plays, which a lot of them all of a sudden have children that want to play on these teams.
Right.
So wink, wink. So there are college coaches, but officially, there's tons and tons of media and writers who write for the college websites and the recruiting sites and all those people. And a lot of this is streamed. So college coaches are watching it, through streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also, these reporters have great relationships with a lot of the college coaches. The college coaches will come back and say, who did you like? What did you think about this guy? Who did you like that maybe we don't know about? So there's a ton of exposure It's a big media event. And again, it's the best players in the country are on these teams. So it's
a lot of new media, right? It's not just waiting for Sports Illustrated or ESPN. It's the bloggers. It's the people on Twitter. Right. Yeah. It's the college, the super fans who are posting things. It's, Rivals 24/7.
Oh yeah.
It's Instagram.
Right. Exactly. It's the modern media, which is, instant play, so instant news, instant whatever's happening. Johnny just caught a touchdown, 30-yard touchdown over this guy, right away. And there's a film clip of it. So,
right.
Yeah. And so these kids, I mean, they know what the stakes are. There's a lot of bragging rights. There's a lot of trash talking between the teams. And, we want to win. We really want to win. We want to repeat what we did last year. And we've won 3 other national championships. And we think that we have the team to do it again.
Awesome. We'll definitely be rooting for you. And look, if I was a major D1 college football coach, I'd make sure to have 5 or 6 boys, space them out and put them on every single team.
You'll see college coaches out there that stick their kid on a team, and then under the rules, they could be out there. So
I'm
not going to name the coach. It's nothing he did illegal, but I don't. There was a big college coach that used to have his son play on these teams, and he would be out there. And I don't think he ever watched this kid. He would be watching South Florida Express or all these other teams, but
put him on the roster as a ball boy, right? Put him on the roster as a ball boy and just go and he can get a little bit of scrub time and be there watching and have it be a business trip. Absolutely. And so earlier, you talked about fundraising and how now you have this massive organization, and we all know costs have risen crazily the last few years with inflation and flights and food and hotels and just everything. So, at the Rossin Law Firm, we are so proud to be a sponsor, one of your sponsors, and we're a very new sponsor, but anything that we can do when we partner with anybody, right? Especially in Jacob's Shoes, who we've been partnered with them for 5, 6, 7 years now. For us, it's about, is the mission the same? Are the core values the same? And is it helping local people, especially local children? And so for us, we thought this would be a perfect fit, especially combining with my love for sports, not just basketball, but football and everything. You put a ball out or some kind of competition, I don't care what it is, and I'm going to want in. We're so happy and proud to be one of your sponsors. But also, what other type of sponsors, Brett, is South Florida Express interested in working with and partnering with? Who's the ideal fit for you?
Yeah, the ideal fit is, and we found that about you right away, Adam, and your law firm, is that we want people that obviously can have the means to make a donation financially, but also can add other things. Adam, after talking to you the first time and having a lunch with you and kind of talking about our program and listening to you, it was like, I walked away. I said, oh my God, Adam and Rossin Law Firm are perfect. This sounds like a commercial for you, but this is the truth. This is perfect, because we always look for people that have the money, but also truly have the same values that I started this program with, about just giving back to these kids. We both love sports, but, and these kids, they don't need us running routes or teaching them how to run routes or playing, cover 3 defense or man-to-man. It's more about, life skills and stuff like that. And just being around these kids and talking to you, Adam, it's really, you have the same values that I have. And that's why we're such a good match. And I'm really excited to have you guys as one of our sponsors. We have 3 other pretty significant sponsors that they are guys that have foundations, family wealth foundations that have given to different charities for a long time. I was introduced to them 15, 16 years ago. And they love what we do. They come out to every tryout, and I have them speak. And the one thing they say, and the one thing they tell me, we'll continue to give you money for your program because we love sports like you do. But you have to stress education. And, unless people are educated, we can't advance in any way, right? And no matter who you are, education is key. And whoever who's willing and can help us financially, that means a lot, because you're helping a football program that's nationally known, but you're also helping a bunch of kids. For these kids, a lot of these kids have never been on a plane before South Florida Express. We have a 5-star receiver that is coming in from Indianapolis to play for us. He's never been on a plane before. Wow. Now, here's a kid that's going to play at a major college, never been on a plane before, and his trainer is going to fly down here because he wants to actually work out with some of our kids before we leave. So the trainer is coming on the plane with him to be at his side. So there's just so many things that, man, one day the kid's going to come back and say, man, Brett, man, I was so petrified to get on this plane. Thank you for pushing me. Because guess what? In order to be successful, you don't need to go on a plane. But guess what? A lot of business deals are on planes or traveling. So little things like that, which you don't correlate with business, are business related or money making related for these kids. And with NIL, these kids need to learn life skills and how to say hi. And our sponsors are fantastic and have the same values that we have. So we're excited.
Right. And again, I like to say just stepping out of your comfort zone, right? Getting a little uncomfortable, and because that's where the growth is. That's really where it comes from. So basically, anybody who shares your same core values, wants to help teenagers, children, mentors, people, boys, going from boys to teenagers to men, anybody who has a love of South Florida and our community, and who just shares the same core values and loves sports. You don't even have to love sports, right? But that definitely helps. And so really, you're saying anybody who fits that criteria would be just a phenomenal match to partner with you guys, especially if they like social media. You guys have a great social media presence. We're doing a lot of things with you guys on social media, having fun while we're doing it too, because that's one of our things. Anything we want to do, we want to have fun doing it, right? Even if it's cross-examining or grilling a cop in a criminal trial, we're going to have fun doing it. It's going to be intense, but we're going to smile. We're going to love it. So, okay, perfect. Well, anybody listening to this, if you fit that criteria, or if you know somebody who does, you can reach out to us and we can put you in touch with Brett, or Brett, we can definitely put your information. We'll link everything up in the show notes, and I'll make sure at the end of this that we get, the best ways to contact you and South Florida Express, because, it's all about that snowball effect of just continuing to grow, grow or die, and do it for the right reason.
Yeah. And our growth has been through, of everything, but the financial help is huge, because that's how we continue to grow, be able to give these kids. And, and by the way, when we travel, we also try to stop at, historical places if we're passing them, or, if we try to stop at colleges. We're going to be in LA. We're going to stop at USC and UCLA, so the kids can have an opportunity to see those schools. Actually, my 17-year-old daughter, who's looking at colleges, she's actually coming on this trip so she can make the stop to USC for her second time, which she came with our trip last year with the kids. And absolutely, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, fell in love with USC. It's a little far when I say it's unfortunate, because she loves USC, and they treated her like a little queen that day. But we're going to stop at schools. The kids are going to have a chance to see things that they might not be able to see. They will eventually be able to go to those schools on visits, but
right. But that's so important, of not just fly across the country, play football, and leave. Right. Again, it's everything. It's the whole person, the whole adult. It's that all that experience. So, Brett, how do you, when dealing with coaches or sponsors or people, because I'm sure people want to get in with your organization, how do you put up the safeguards to prevent the snakes in the grass from coming in with maybe nefarious, intentions, or, because these kids, right, are very talented, and there's a lot of people who see dollar signs. Yeah. So what kind of controls or procedures have you put in place?
That's been something that I've always kept an eye on, because we've had a lot of people that want to get in for, some ulterior motives, and some not being the greatest motive. So, I just, I kind of keep it tight, keep our little family tight, be careful, kind of screen out, do a little due diligence on everybody that comes into the program. And by the way, it's not just, people that might have other motives. It's also behavior. It's like, I've seen coaches in other teams. I've seen them in fights during games. I've seen, just out of control coaches. I need people that are going to be responsible, because we are responsible for these people's kids when we travel. So I need the right people around these kids at all times, being good mentors and good supervisors, or whatever you want to call them, out there watching these kids. So yeah, we have to be careful of who we bring in. And there's a certain, like the other day when we met as coaches, we went over again what we expect as coaches. Yes, you're volunteering, and thank you so much. But with that, we expect everybody to be there for our team dinners, our team breakfast, and we expect everybody to be on time and to be a good example for these kids.
Right. Yeah. You can't have it any other way. Right. With me and coaching basketball, I've seen many AAU programs come and go. They have a great year or two. They have success, but they're very poorly run. They don't have great core values. They're not leaders of men off the court, and they fizzle and fold very quickly. And so, I've seen them come and go. Right. I'm sure 16 years, right? I'm sure you've seen them come and go, and you'll continue to see them come and go.
And by the way, people say to me, oh my God, we have to watch out for this team. They're up and coming, this. And I said, okay, let them do. I said, don't focus on them. Focus on us. What's going to make us better? And if you continue to make us better and you focus on us, not other teams, then we're going to continue to strive. And I think that's been our success.
Absolutely. So let's pivot a little bit and let's talk about NIL, right? So this is changing the game for college athletics, but also high school, and whether it's AAU in basketball, 7-on-7 in football. And so what kind of, programs are you getting the team and the kids into, and what's been going on with your side with NIL?
Yeah. I mean, in Florida, we can't get any money, or the kids can't get paid in high school. So we really haven't done much. I mean, as a program, there's nothing we could do. But I have done a lot. I've had a couple of kids that have played for us that have reached out to me and said, can you help me a little bit to understand the NIL is all over the place, by the way. And just for the listeners,
it's the Wild West. Yeah.
I mean, it's the Wild Wild West. I think even the universities don't completely understand it. It's kind of a free for all right now. In simple terms, it's, pay for play, pay for your players to get there. And the NCAA overnight went from one extreme to being extremely conservative, making sure that nobody gets paid, none of the kids get paid, to overnight pay all the college.
The floodgates.
So it's
right. And 50 states have 50 different laws and rules.
Right. Every state. Now in Florida, where it's, probably the biggest football state as far as talent, our players can't get paid. Now we had our quarterback last year, one of our two quarterbacks, one was local and one was from LA. We'd be in LA a couple times, we were out there, he would pull up in, a fancy car, because he had $1 million deal with businesses out there because of who he was.
Already.
Number one player in the country, going to USC, and great kid. And, so the only thing I really did is kind of educate myself just for my own knowledge, because I'm sort of in that world of being around these kids, and the kids have asked me. And, I went to see a couple of the former SFE players at Dolphins practice one day. They were playing the Eagles at practice.
Now Dolphins versus Eagles. Who are you rooting for?
It's a good question. Being down here since I was 15, I grew up an Eagles fan, but being down here for so long, I grew into a Dolphin fan. So that game.
That's the right answer.
It was actually I think the game actually got canceled. It was this year when all the Dolphin players got sick. There was something that happened. I think the game ended up getting canceled, but don't go there who I'm going to cheer for.
Okay.
By the way, the Sixers are almost playing the Heat this week. They lost, and everyone's like, root for it. I said, I don't want to talk about it.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, I've really adopted all the Florida teams as my teams now. But I happened to be at a Dolphins practice, and I ran into somebody introduced me to a big sports agent there, and we just started chatting. And I said, what is your firm doing in the NIL space? He said, well, we actually have started our own NIL division. So I said, oh, that's interesting. And tell me a little bit about it. And he did. And I said, hey, let's have lunch one day. Because a couple of kids have asked me, And by the way, there's a lot of vultures out there. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I've heard all kinds of crazy stories. I mean, I have heard it all over this last year with NIL. So I met with this agent to hear how they do it, and I thought it was a great program what they're doing. But again, these kids can't even sign with now they can't sign with an agent in Florida until they're done their eligibility. Like Brandon, you mentioned Brandon Innes, he signed with an agent right after his last football game. He wasn't running track or doing anything. So his FHSAA eligibility was up the day his last game ended, which was in the state championship game. And right after that, he was able to sign with an agent and start working on NIL. And just for the people listening with NIL, there's two different phases of NIL. There's the phase of what the school could raise, which is the collective of each school has now a collective where they are, it could be anybody can form their own collective at a school and they can raise money and use that money. Now, schools are not supposed to entice players to go to their school because of money, but of course, wild west. But but these schools have collectives, so these kids are offered a certain amount or guaranteed a certain amount of money to go to that school. Typically, it's really year by year, these deals. And I think that's for the school's protection and the people giving the money. It's a business now, by the way, which everybody has to understand. So if you give Johnny $200,000 to go, but Johnny turns out to be a horrible player, well, sometimes you can eliminate that NIL deal by having a year-by-year contract. But the two parts that I had said is one of them is the money that the collective gives you. And the second part is the money that you actually are really earning as, we say pay for play. Guys that are that companies, car companies, local businesses, or whoever, national businesses, see this guy as a spectacular person to represent their brand so they can come in and make deals and get you deals. So there's two ways that the kids are getting money. One's from the collective and one is from, sponsorship. So
perfect. And
it's crazy. And the numbers thrown around are nuts.
And it's a whole new ballgame. What are we? I think we're year 2 or 3 involved in this, and it will be better regulated and things will smooth out. But it's great that you guys as an organization are staying on top of this as well, because for somebody like Brandon and some of your other players, once they're done, right, and they need to have the right mentors, right coaches, right people advising them. Last thing they want to do is take quick money from something that's not a good company or from somebody who's going to be investigated by the feds or have their company go belly up, right? Or just because, it's your reputation. And now, you have very talented athletes who are learning this at an earlier age than they ever did before, which, it's not good or bad. It is. It is what it is. And they need to
it's funny
deal
we're
with it.
talking about this and with NIL space now, my conversation with these kids when going on a trip or being at tournaments was, guys, there's a lot of people watching us. There's a lot of cameras. There's people with phones watching us. People are videotaping everything. They're audio taping. They're visual taping. Everything that you do is going to be watched. You have to be careful. You don't want a scholarship potentially at University of Florida or Miami or whatever school it is. You don't want people pulling scholarships because you were the guy that threw that punch and now you're a thug. You don't want it.
Or that tweet from 5 years ago comes and is resurfaces and all of those things.
100%. And by the way, when you get to the NFL, what happened this time? There was a brawl and you were in the center of it. Are you that kind of kid? No. So now that conversation goes to a whole nother extent is, hey guys, now there's money on the line with NIL, even in high school or when you get to college. If you're going to be involved with habits, whether it's smoking pot or getting in a fight at a bar or whatever you're going to do, everything is going to be scrutinized. And if you do that, they're going to pull these NIL deals in 2 seconds. So you have to get ahead of it. You got to act the right way. You got to act as gentlemen. and stay away from issues or problems that are going to cause you to get these deals taken away. Besides your scholarship, by the way.
Right. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. And that's, again, that's what this is all about, is about, educating the youth and setting them up for success, right? And helping our community. And so I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you anymore. So Brett, look, this has been an amazing talk. Really last question for you is, well, actually, I have two final questions for you. First of all, what do you like more? Do you love to win, or do you hate to lose?
I love to win.
Okay. Now, why?
I don't know. It's just like this. Because I work hard for it. No matter what I do in life, I work really, really hard for it. So the feeling of winning is great. And and my mindset is always to win, not ever to be in second place. So I don't even think of the flip side. I think, and by the way, I do hate to lose. Believe me, I'm a horrible loser. But my mindset has always been to be positive and to always think with a winning attitude. There was a college basketball coach for Temple University, John Chaney. He used to say, winning is an attitude, was his slogan. And I always kind of live by that, because when you win, there is a certain attitude and a certain vibe that your team needs. So I try to live with that, and we've had some issues with internally in our program that was kind of drawing some negative blood and some negative just vibes within our program. And I had to turn it around quickly. And I want us to be positive. I want us to think positive. I want us to think with a winning attitude. I don't want to ever think of what happens if we lose, and we're going to lose. But how are we going to win, and how are we going to handle winning? And I will say, I tell every kid, we're supposed to win every one of these tournaments. But win or lose, we're going to act like gentlemen, and we're going to shake hands, and we're going to walk off the field. And then we're going to go celebrate on our sideline, and somewhere at a restaurant or wherever we're going to celebrate. But be gentlemen about it. As a competitor, respect your opponent, but always have that winning attitude. That's the kind of guys I want in this program.
Yep, I agreed. And really, I think there's no right or wrong answer when I ask people this. It's just, more about the why behind it. So I love to hear your why and your explanation. And last question is, what is your definition of success?
Happiness. It's not, I think when I'm successful in accomplishing what I'm trying to accomplish, whether it's financial or a sporting event or work, I'm happy. And I feel a sense of relief and happiness that I was able to achieve what I went out to do. So that's basically it in a nutshell.
That's a fantastic definition. So Brett, how can everybody find you? What's the best way to get in touch with you or South Florida Express?
Yeah, we're very big on Instagram and on Twitter. You could go on and follow the South Florida Express on either one of them. If you want to speak to me, ask me any questions, whether it's sponsorship or anything you want to know about me, you call me. I'll give you my number. It's 305-632-9895. And you certainly can reach out. But if you want to speak to anybody else, or you want to connect with us on Instagram or Twitter, obviously you could go on to, I'll tell you right now, I'm a little slow with because by the way, I do not handle social media.
Right. I have it up here. So it's South FL Express, EXPRESS. And you guys have almost 20,000 followers as of now. I'm sure that's going to skyrocket after national championships and as you guys continue to pump out some great content on there.
I really appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate the efforts and the help from Ross and Law Firm of donating. And like I said, it wasn't just donating. It's sitting down with you, Adam, and learning who you are and learning your passion to give back. And I really appreciate people like that. And those are the people I want to be around. And I appreciate that support. And Tessa, you as well. I got a chance to meet your marketing person, Tessa, who is fantastic. And I look forward to working with you guys in the future as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
By the way, I hope you guys could come out to, I hope we could see you guys in LA. We'd love to.
I want to come out. I'm looking into flights actually now. Got to talk to the wife and everything. So I'm looking there. Maybe slowly.
You were an athlete.
I was. Yeah. No, but definitely. I'll if anything, I'll be there running, drawing up plays.
Adam, I have a feeling the athletes that you and I were competing against were maybe a little different than these athletes. Because when you see these athletes, man, this is what NFL athletes, top of the line athletes look like. And I'm still in awe of watching some of these guys, how incredibly fast, athletic, and every way else their skill is incredible.
Right. Oh, yeah. Look,
I thought I was a good athlete back in the day.
I think football players and basketball players are the world's best athletes, bar none.
Top Formula One racers?
Absolutely are. I mean, they're pretty good too. Different.
I just heard this debate the other day whether they're real athletes, but after doing some research, they are.
They are they absolutely are, but different. Their endurance, right, and kind of actually, yeah, I mean they definitely are. But as far as world's greatest, no, it's football and basketball players. You can't even compete. But yeah, Brett, thanks so much, and I'm so glad to have you on here. I'm so glad to partner with you, not just be a sponsor, but be an actual true partner with you and South Florida Express, and we hope that just many great things come to you in the organization. And again, if anybody's listening to this and wants to reach out, I highly encourage you to do so.
Appreciate you guys very much.
Of course. All right. Have a good one.